All right, so are you ready to dive into the world of Square Enix?
Oh, yeah. I'm excited to talk about Square Enix.
You know the company behind some of the most iconic games ever?
Final Fantasy Kingdom Hearts.
Exactly.
Mm.
You sent over this awesome analysis, and I think it'd be fun to dissect it,
Yeah.
really break down Square Enix's strengths and weaknesses
hmm
and, what they're facing going forward.
I think it's going to be a super interesting conversation.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, they've been around forever.
Yeah, they have.
What, like decades at this point?
Yeah, a powerhouse in the industry.
Like their impact is massive,
Yeah.
especially on RPGs, storytelling,
Absolutely.
even just pop culture.
I mean, think about it. Final Fantasy VII,
I know, right?
one of the best-selling games ever.
Yeah, and it's not just like sales figures, It's like
Of course,
culturally
it's referenced everywhere.
everywhere.
Right.
Like you see it in anime, in articles.
In academic papers, even.
It's insane.
Yeah, that game really had a profound impact on storytelling. Not even just in games in general. I think it became like a cultural phenomenon.
Yeah, and I think there are very few games you can point to and say that about.
Yeah, that's true.
Then you got Dragon Quest, which in Japan, it's like,
Oh, yeah.
it's basically a religion over there.
Yeah.
Which is interesting to me because internationally, it's always had a following.
Mm-hmm.
It's never been as big as Final Fantasy.
Right.
Do you think that's changing at all?
I think there has been a surge in interest.
Yeah.
Especially with some of the newer titles.
Yeah.
Dragon Quest XI, the anime.
Anime, I haven't seen that one.
I mean, it's interesting, because Dragon Quest is it's very traditional. It's like a classic JRPG formula.
Yeah.
Whereas Final Fantasy experiments a lot more.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah,
Dragon Quest is very much like,
yeah,
this is Dragon Quest and this is what you're going to get.
it is what it is.
And people love it for that.
And people love it, yeah.
I think in a gaming landscape where so many games try to be everything to everyone,
Yeah.
there's something appealing about that.
Yeah, definitely.
This is what it is, and it's great.
Absolutely.
And then you got Kingdom Hearts, which is just wild.
Kingdom Hearts is another beast altogether.
It's like Disney and Final Fantasy got thrown in a blender.
A magical blender.
And somehow magic came out.
It works.
Which is crazy.
I think it speaks to Square Enix's ability to collaborate.
Yeah.
They worked with Disney.
I know.
Which is a huge...
Disney is
Yeah.
they're very protective.
Yeah.
So the fact that they were able to create something that works.
Absolutely.
And is good.
Yeah. And appeals to both audiences.
Yeah. That's insane to me.
It's pretty incredible.
So we've got these iconic franchises.
Yeah.
Square Enix has an insane track record.
Mm-hmm.
But you sent over this analysis, and you talk about their strengths beyond just the IP.
Right, because it goes beyond the franchises.
Yeah.
They are masters of storytelling.
World building.
Oh, the worlds they create.
I mean, just think about the characters, the stories in Final Fantasy VI.
Chrono Trigger.
Chrono Trigger.
Oh my God.
These are games that they really hit you emotionally.
Absolutely. And visually, too.
Visually stunning. Always.
It's ahead of the curve, it feels like.
Always pushing the boundaries.
Yeah.
And not just pretty graphics.
Yeah.
Their luminous engine.
I mean...
It's incredible.
It's seriously impressive.
Yeah, the facial animations, the lighting.
So good.
It allows them to create those truly immersive experiences that draw you in.
And they've published games outside of the traditional JRPG genre.
Yeah, they're not afraid to branch out.
Like Octopath Traveler.
Yeah.
The HD 2D, that was so cool.
So unique.
Nier Automata.
Nier Automata, oh man.
Such an incredible game.
The soundtrack, the philosophical themes.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It's great that they're willing to branch out.
Yeah.
But even the best companies have weaknesses, right?
Oh, all has areas where they can grow.
Yeah, for sure.
And the analysis you gave us pointed to some of those.
Yeah.
And the first one that really stood out to me was this over-reliance on these legacy franchises.
It's tricky
because
you have these hugely successful franchises that people love.
Yeah.
But can you really depend on them forever?
Yeah, that's the thing.
Can you build new IPs that resonate on that same level?
That's a tough question.
It's a challenge for sure.
Because you've got these fans that want more Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
They want more Dragon Quest.
They want what they know.
Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah.
But then how do you push forward creatively?
Right. How do you take risks? How do you try new things?
How do you find that balance?
Yeah, it's a balance a lot of companies struggle with.
I guess so.
Look at Marvel's Avengers.
Oh, yeah.
Seemed like a guaranteed hit.
I know, right?
The Marvel Universe is huge.
I was so surprised that it didn't do well.
Yeah, it stumbled.
Why do you think that happened?
I think a few things. The live service model they went with?
Yeah.
I don't know if that was the right fit for the game.
Yeah, it felt a little off.
There were technical issues at launch, too.
Okay, so maybe some bugs.
Yeah, and the content updates weren't quite there.
So it sounds like there was a disconnect between what players expected
Yeah.
and what the game actually delivered.
I think so.
Interesting.
And they do live service well in other games.
Final Fantasy XIV.
Yeah,
That
exactly.
game's been killing it.
For years.
So they know how to do it,
Right.
but it has to be the right,
It has to be well executed.
the right approach for that specific
Yeah.
game and franchise.
Exactly.
You can't just like use a cookie cutter.
No one size fits all.
And speaking of things that take time, we got to talk about the Square Enix development cycle.
That's the elephant in the room.
I mean, Final Fantasy XV,
10 years.
10 years in development.
Yeah.
And you got the
Yeah.
Final Fantasy VII remakes.
A massive undertaking.
So much pressure.
So much expectation.
All these years, do you think ultimately it's a strength or a weakness?
Well, I mean, it's led to some incredible games.
Oh, yeah.
Ambitious, visually stunning.
Absolutely.
But you also run the risk of development hell.
Yeah.
Feature creep costs just spiraling out of control.
And the gaming landscape changes so fast.
Right. Imagine working on a game for years.
Yeah.
And then it releases and it feels dated.
Oh, that's rough.
Yeah, it's tough.
And then you think about the expectations.
The longer you wait,
Yeah.
the more you expect.
It's like when your favorite band releases an album after like 5 years.
Yeah.
And it's not quite,
It's never going to live up.
it's never going to be what you
Right.
wanted it to be.
Yeah.
And we haven't even talked about their Western studios.
Ah.
They've had some challenges there.
Yeah, like Shadow of the Tomb Raider.
It was a decent game,
It was fine.
but it didn't quite hit.
It didn't reach the same heights as some of their other stuff.
Yeah, and I wonder if that's like a cultural thing, you know?
It could be.
Managing these studios across the world.
Yeah, different creative philosophies,
Totally.
different ways of working.
So we've explored the strengths.
Mhm.
We've dug into the weaknesses.
Yeah.
But what about the future?
Right. What's next for Square Enix?
The gaming industry is constantly evolving.
Yeah, it never sits still.
So what opportunities and threats do you see out there for them?
Well, let's start with the opportunities. Well, I think the success of Final Fantasy XIV shows that there's a demand for live service and MMOs.
Yeah, you're right.
But they do it, well, it's not just
Yeah.
pumping out expansion.
No, it's more than that.
They've built a community. You know?
Oh, yeah.
Players are engaged. They want to be in that world.
Yeah. It's become like a phenomenon.
Yeah.
I mean, it's practically a digital society at this point.
It kind of is.
But like, wouldn't focusing on live service limit their creative scope a little bit?
That's an interesting thought.
Because you think of Square Enix
Yeah.
and you think of these big single-player
Yeah.
narrative games.
Yeah.
You know?
Right. But I don't think it has to be one or the other.
Okay.
I think there's room for both.
Yeah.
They've shown they can innovate within that live service model.
Okay.
Like, look at Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Yeah.
They're bringing in multiplayer elements,
Oh, that's true.
weaving in those narratives that they're known for
Yeah.
into different types of gameplay.
So it's not about abandoning single-player games.
No, not at all.
It's about like
Evolving.
adapting.
Yeah, finding ways to integrate those strengths.
And I guess there's also the potential for remakes and remasters.
Oh, yeah, they've got a treasure trove of classic games.
I mean, so many.
That could be reimagined.
But do you ever worry that that's like leaning too hard on nostalgia?
That's a good point.
Like at what point do players say, okay, we want something new?
You need that balance.
Yeah.
You can't just do a straight port. You
Yeah.
know? It's got to be more than that.
Yeah.
You got to take those core mechanics, those
Yeah.
stories that people loved,
Yeah.
and update them.
Modernize them.
Yeah, for today's audience.
It's like what Capcom did with the Resident Evil remakes.
Exactly.
They kept the spirit of the originals,
Mm-hmm.
but they updated the gameplay and the visuals.
Yeah, they brought those games to a whole new generation,
Yeah.
and it worked.
And it's not just about like the old fans, you know,
Right.
It's bringing in new players who
Exactly.
might not have experienced those games.
Yeah, maybe they were too young,
Yeah.
or they just missed them.
I feel like there's also a lot of potential for growth in new markets,
Oh, absolutely.
like Southeast Asia, South America.
Yeah, those gaming communities are huge.
It's crazy how big gaming has become.
It's global.
It's not just this niche hobby anymore.
No, it's mainstream.
Yeah, and it's just getting bigger.
And with that comes new platforms,
Yeah, new ways to play.
mobile gaming, cloud gaming.
Square Enix has already kind of dipped their toes in,
Yeah, they've experimented a little.
but there's so much more they could do.
Absolutely.
I mean, imagine playing Final Fantasy on your phone, on your commute.
Why not? While you're on the train.
The possibilities are endless.
And speaking of expanding,
Okay.
have you ever thought about Square Enix going beyond games?
Like, what do you mean?
Like movies, TV.
Oh, interesting.
I mean, they have these amazing stories.
They do.
Characters, worlds.
Well, we are seeing a lot more game adaptations these days.
Yeah, the Sonic movies.
Yeah, they were surprisingly good.
I know, right?
So it can be done well.
And Square Enix has so many IPs
Oh, yeah.
that could be adapted.
It was sitting on a gold mine.
Imagine like a big budget Final Fantasy movie
Oh, wow.
directed by like Denis Villeneuve or something.
I'd watch that.
Or like a gritty live action Kingdom Hearts series on HBO.
Okay, now you're talking.
It could be insane.
It would introduce those franchises to a whole new audience.
Yeah, bring in new fans.
Absolutely.
But I guess with every opportunity comes threats.
That's the nature of the beast.
So what are some of the biggest threats?
Well, the competition is fierce.
You got Bandai Namco, Capcom, CD Projekt Red,
I mean, so many companies.
all fighting for players' attention.
And it's expensive to make games.
Oh yeah, especially those big AAA titles.
Like every year, it seems like the budgets get bigger.
Yeah, the stakes are higher.
So how does that affect a company like Square Enix?
It puts pressure on them to deliver hits.
Yeah, they can't afford to have a game flop.
No, they need to be smart with their investment,
Make sure they're choosing the right projects.
managing those development cycles carefully.
Makes sense.
And then there's the whole monetization issue.
Yeah, that's a big one.
We've seen a lot of pushback against aggressive monetization.
Especially in live service games.
Yeah, players are getting tired of being nickel and dimed.
So how does Square Enix navigate that?
Carefully.
Yeah.
I think transparency and respect are key.
Okay.
Players are smart. They can spot a cash grab a mile away.
It's like they need to find that sweet spot, you know?
Yeah.
Where they're making money, but they're not like
Yeah,
taking advantage of players.
exactly. It's got to feel fair.
Yeah.
Like it's integrated into the game.
Not just like tacked on.
Right.
Like, oh, give us more money.
No one likes that.
So like cosmetics.
Yeah.
Expansions with actual content, you know?
Right, like stuff that adds value.
Yeah.
Not just a way to drain your wallet.
So we have to talk about like
Yeah.
player preferences are changing too.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like free to play is huge.
Oh, acid.
And people want shorter games.
Yeah, they don't always have time for a 100-hour RPG.
Right?
So that could be a challenge for Square Enix.
Do you think so?
Yeah, I mean, they're known for these big, expansive games
Yeah.
that take forever to beat.
So do you think they can adapt to that?
I think they can.
Okay.
It might mean like experimenting
Okay.
with different formats, maybe episodic content,
Ah,
or exploring different genres.
that are maybe a little shorter.
Yeah, more bite-sized,
Yeah.
more accessible.
So basically like diversifying their portfolio even more.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I guess they'd also have to rethink their storytelling.
Can you tell a compelling story
Yeah.
in a shorter amount of time?
Is that even possible?
That's the challenge.
Yeah.
Can you create a world that feels deep and engaging,
Yeah.
even if players only spend a few hours there?
It's a tough question.
It is.
But it's interesting to think about.
It's a challenge, but I think they're up to it.
You think so?
Yeah, they've shown they can adapt.
Yeah, like with Final Fantasy IV.
Exactly.
They took what they learned from NextII
Mm-hmm.
and they made something amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not afraid to experiment.
And they learn from their mistakes.
Yeah, which is important.
Yeah, it's how you grow.
So it sounds like Square Enix is at a bit of a crossroads.
Yeah, they have this incredible legacy,
Yeah,
but the industry is changing.
yeah, and there's so much competition.
So they need to find that balance
Yeah,
between honoring the past
yeah.
and embracing the future.
It's like walking a tightrope,
Yeah.
but they need to keep delivering those amazing experiences that players have come to expect.
But they also need to adapt
Yeah.
to stay relevant.
Well, this has been awesome.
Yeah, this is fun.
A really great deep dive into the world of Square Enix.
I agree.
I mean, we talked about their strengths, their weaknesses,
Yeah.
and the road ahead.
The future's uncertain,
Yeah.
but it's exciting.
And a huge thank you to you for bringing this analysis to us
Of course, my pleasure.
and to our listeners.
Yeah.
We leave you with this thought.
What does the future hold for Square Enix?
What kind of games will they make?
What new worlds will they create?
Only time will tell.
Yeah.
But it's going to be fun to watch.
I'm looking forward to it.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Okay.